Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. I know it takes a little while for it to hit everyone's system.
Good morning. Let me start off since I'm Cheryl Moore.
I am her better half. Okay, the other half or the other whole. Terrence Moore. And welcome to Monday with the Moores, the anniversary edition. So how's it going, everyone? How you doing? How you
3,
doing?
2. Should I do it? 3, 2. Wait. 3,
I think that's 3-3.
3, 2, 3, 2. I'm trying to figure out my fingers.
Oh my God! Here we go. Okay, as for those who may or may not be aware, Cheryl is not a morning person, so she is still gathering herself together.
I've gotten
the
better.
3-2-2-3.
I've gotten better. I've gotten better because I do my morning. I've gotten better. I'm not a morning person in terms of 4, 5 o'clock in the mornings.
Okay. Hey, leave me out of this. I tend to be a morning person.
Okay. All right.
Well, we're back. We're back. We are so excited about being back, and we were asked, where y'all at?
Yeah.
Where have y'all been? What's going on? We were like, look, a lot of transition, a lot of transition, and I think it's just been really good. But we were like, you know what? Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. Actually, it was Cheryl the one that's like, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. And I'm like, what? You ready? You ready? She's like, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
So we're back and we're excited about that. And it's definitely been a blessing to really take a break and transition. And we're back. We're happy to be back in the new year. And it's just awesome.
Yeah. So our break really was a lot of transitions around, I won't say me personally because it affects us. And with that, just I learned to embrace transition as a treasure, which is, I can think creatively, do things creative, innovative, and love doing different things. But when it came to applying to me personally, that was a big hiccup. So that transition really, I think, set the tone for a lot of movement, and what I would say is huge for our 32.
That's true.
For sure. Our 32, our values, what's important to us, new directions. Woo!
And
We'll
that's an understatement. That's an understatement.
Yeah, new directions, and that's good. We'll be talking about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sylvester.
Right, it's something for me to be married to Terrence for 32 years, right? But
what's that supposed to mean?
I mean, that means a lot. Can I get a witness?
So, yep, this week will be our anniversary. It actually happened. It's actually on April 17th.
April 17th.
On Thursday. So we were like, since we're Monday with the Moores, we didn't want to do it on Thursdays, but we love kicking it off, and it's just whole week.
Yeah.
A whole week of celebration and love
and reflection
and appreciation and reflection. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, 32 years is a lot. And sometimes, depending on we as husbands, we tend to have a very different point of view about how things are in marriage.
Really?
We sometimes think that things go, it's pretty linear, but then we understand that wives are complex, and it goes in
We're
scribbles.
complex.
Go.
That's so interesting.
Women are is this. It goes in that direction in the linear.
Yeah,
there's no such thing as linearity.
His descriptions are interesting, aren't they?
Look, brothers, y'all know when you've been in a partnership or a relationship with look, y'all know that there's never a straight line when it comes to a woman. Facts, truth all day. But I tell you,
Okay.
I think in the 32 years, I think that one of the major lessons in 32 years, just kind of thinking about that is like, you know what? You gotta talk.
And somebody's on here saying truth.
See,
So we won't say
exactly.
anything to you.
Man, Sylvester got my back. Look, man, but you know what? 32 years is a lot, and it's a blessing. And for some of you who may not know, we've known each other. We're coming up on 36 years.
Yeah,
about 36 years. We met in college, and we went from a friendship to a relationship to a marriage.
over years.
Oh yeah, over years.
Yeah.
And another time we'll just talk about how she didn't like me, I didn't like her. She was too much of a holy roller for me.
Whatever.
But I learned a lot in our 32 years.
Right. So let's start with our reflections.
Okay.
Okay. So.
What did you get out of 32 years?
Oh, now you want to pop it off over here. That's so interesting. You sit up here and say what it is. All
I
right.
have my seatbelt on.
All right. Let's share 1 to 2 lessons we've learned as a couple.
Okay.
Let's start individual. Let's do it. I'll do 1, you do 1.
All right.
That'll be 2. All right. You first. Since you was doing the most when we got on here, go ahead.
What have I learned in
1 lesson
that
that we've learned as a
so
couple.
many.
As a
so
couple,
many.
not your own individual deliverance.
Well, okay. I mentioned it earlier. It's the communication. Communication.
Oh, Jesus.
Look here, communication. We hear it all the time. I mean, people.
Oh man, Terrence, I was just thinking about that tonight.
We hear it all the time about communication. Look, here's a reality from my end that affected us. I'm a Capricorn. I don't communicate well, and I didn't realize that until way deep in the marriage. In my mind, I'm communicating very clearly. I'm communicating very articulately. I'm communicating with like anybody can understand. But I realized way deep in the marriage, because somebody didn't say much. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about my partner, who's my whole, not my half. Communication is so key, man. It is like and I think the thing is, we have to really, as a couple, really be honest that, okay, I heard what you say, but what manifested on the other side didn't make sense.
Well, the lesson that's really good. And that's so interesting, because I was thinking about this last night, about communication. People say communicate. And this,
So
I'm pretty sure
different
we'll
ways.
talk when we get our rhythm and learn to be consistent about this. Sharing is the fact that the older I get upset with, no one tells you the how. No, communicate,
true.
but nobody tells you the
That is so
in-depth
true.
of what that actually means. So we do what we've seen, what we've heard, and we piecemeal together what that looks like, right? So, and I'm a Pisces, and I'm very very, very, if it's not spiritual, it's not going to resonate with me. If it ain't spiritual, call that whatever. That is just my makeup. And I feel like it was over the years, in our latter years, and I would say in the last 32, right around in the 20-something year range. Earlier than the 20-something year, what I learned was we were both growing up, and we were in that growing family phase of our kids going to football games, practices. So it's like communication on the run. Like you catch communication, like you
Right.
catch a football. So it's like,
Choppy in it.
It's
Inconsistent.
choppy. You're trying to get things done. You got a family to deal with. You got a job. You're trying to deal with stuff. So our communication really, I won't say it suffered. It wasn't nurtured. So because we didn't nurture it,
That's
it
true.
didn't develop.
We didn't even know what to nurture.
So
though.
here's the other thing. I'm gonna just say the Kool-Aid that I bought into, and people tell you what they know, but they're not married to the person or in the partnership, whether it's a business or whatever that you're in.
That's true.
there's a certain season and a timing of when you present, and you gotta wait until that person's ready to hear you. I'm being honest. What I learned, that I'm telling y'all, you know, I can't tell y'all what to do and how y'all relate to people, but let me tell you what that's gonna do. So what it did, it piled things up.
Right.
Now he's like, why didn't you say anything?
Exactly.
Right. I can't tell y'all. We're just talking about the Moors.
Why
But
you
the
not saying
worst
anything?
Thank you so much for the anniversary love. But the worst thing I feel was and then we went over in year 28, the regret of not saying something
Right.
sooner. We didn't say anything. You don't know that your approach, what you know, when you say certain words, or these conversations didn't happen, and then later at right in the 20 somethings, we go deeper. We get deeper in it, like, hey, I need to stop you for a second, because that was a major area that almost caused us to go separate ways.
Oh, for
was
real.
Because nothing was being said or waiting for that time. And that's control. And it's also, we realized that it was a trust issue. I can't trust you.
Man.
That whole thing. Can't trust with the truth. The truth of how I
Because I'm like,
feel.
you can. If I was very transparent, you would not be able to handle what
you
I'm
won't be able to
saying.
handle how
So
insulting.
I'm like, I ain't saying nothing because
It's-
I already know how you're gonna react.
So this becomes an insult to your partner. That's insulting. Not only is that insulting, the fact that you can't trust me with your truth. Just think about
Because
how
the way you was gonna react.
Hold it.
We can laugh about it now.
We can laugh about it
that's
now.
like I say what I say.
Whether you like it or not, listen,
Man.
it's a minute for us to sit. And I don't even have to sit down. It just happens and it flows now.
Right.
It just flows. There are no barriers. There are no guards up. But a lot of that came from outside relationships, how we
Right.
were raised, what
And we
grew up,
brought so much into
and we
it.
grew. We
Preconceived.
just didn't tear that down and build our own. And so what ends up happening, we're waiting for this moment, and then that moment turned into a year and 2 years and 3 years, and you
Then a
remember
decade
when,
and
you
another
and let me
decade.
tell you, your girl here. Y'all want to hear what I did? Somebody just say in the chat.
Lord.
Cheryl, what did you do? I'm gonna tell you something. I like put out here on your boy, right? I think it was 27. I don't know what year it was.
We were coming on
Let
our
me tell you.
28th. We were
Let me
coming up
tell
on our
you what
28th.
Let me tell you what I did. They don't want to know. Ain't nobody telling me. Like, okay, let me tell you. Let me tell you what I did. For the people on the back and the replay,
Lord.
I brought in something that he did on during our anniversary. Yes, I did. 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 20 plus
something
years later.
before.
And let me tell you, because it became the framework for what I saw continuing to happen.
And like I am
Girl,
supposed to
Nancy, that is what I did. And with that, again, it did not become priority. It was just a pile up. It was a pile
know.
up.
A huge
A huge pile up. And it
100 car pile up.
and it wasn't a bad conversation. It was more that we both were hurting because we couldn't hear each other because we weren't saying the truth to each other. We were just trying to get through whatever situation was going on, whatever, trying to make sure we could pay our bills,
raise
kids, the
Transport, work.
Let
But
me
hold
just-
on, before you go there.
Hold it. This is my lesson. You wanted to talk short. So let me tell you, the pressure of parenting, the pressure of pastoring, the pressure of being a professional,
And then, of course, and during that
And-
time, I also was diagnosed with cancer.
right?
So
And all of that said, this is not priority. So
Yeah.
what the community and you
Violence
know
for
what that
real.
did? When people say communication, it's because We coddle it. We comfort.
Cover
we
it,
cover
yeah.
it up. You know why? Because
It was covered up with feces.
and you know what? Because we thought we were being sensitive to the other person.
Right.
There was a, you know, what we were saying to each other. Well, why didn't you say? Because we already had a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
We already had a lot going on. Well, you were going.
And I know
through
what your
so
reaction
much.
was going to be.
But I
Yep.
trust you more when you can tell me, even though I have a lot going on, that we have a lot going on,
Mm-hmm.
that we're talking, that this is what it is, because it derailed us. And to get back on track, we were ready. We
Okay,
were also
I'm going to
really
interrupt
ready.
on that one. Now,
I just
that
gonna say,
sounds nice.
20
in
something. I
hi-
said, no, I said in the 20
Yeah,
something year we
because
were
it
ready.
sounds
I
nice,
said
yeah,
it.
in hindsight. But in the moment, look, I wasn't trying to hear it. No, because
Well,
because
no.
Go ahead.
When were you not? Let's be clear.
no, during
When
that
were
time,
you-
yeah,
during
that
what time?
during the 20 years before.
Well, in that active time, no.
Oh, hold on. Because for real, during that time, them early 20 years, about 20 years ago,
Chose violence.
it was like, you know, and we had already talked about this, so this is just like still funny to me, because to say everything, and one, again, remember, not the best communicator, and then how I communicate, as Sylvester had said earlier, trying to make sure that not realizing that it was coming across insulting and belittling at some time, because I'm thinking I'm speaking articulately, I'm speaking clear. What is the problem? You know, we don't really beat around the bush that much, but we try to be mindful of the reaction of our partner. So it's like when I'm in my mode, it's like I can't deal with all of the reaction and emotions. I got to deal with this myself. I got to figure things out myself. I'll try to relate to her, but I wasn't relating to her clearly and in a way that, because internally I was already have my emotions going on, to have to deal with hers as well. You know, of course, hindsight, but in real time, I recognized I just wasn't ready to deal with her reaction to
Right.
it. And
That's good.
how she would react to it, I just wasn't there. It was better for me just to keep it in, figure it out, and if I mess up, I'm just gonna have to eat it. And when I mess up big. I don't mess up
You
small.
do everything big.
When I go,
That's
it's
why
like-
we're so grateful we're over here. I love the question.
but that
Oh, go
but that
ahead,
was
sorry.
but the communication part was huge. I love what she said, is the fact that we weren't told how, or even given
Just
any
make sure
guidance
you
how.
communicate. Yeah, we
But what
we
does that
talk
mean?
all the time.
Exactly.
And I love what this question is about. Is the main issue communication or comprehension? So I'm going to say this in this regard. At this point, separating them gives us a reason to explain our way out of accountability for communication.
Ooh, that was me.
Comprehension.
Because I will explain. I
Explain it.
explained a lot.
Comprehension
See what
is a
happened was.
Comprehension is a subset of communication. It's not separate, it's integrated.
That's
and
true.
that's what we do. We go into a deep diagnostic and we eliminate the humanity of who we are.
Right.
And that becomes where you are not in sync with your partner or who you're communicating with. Where you know, like now 32 years later, I'm really going to say you're not comprehending me? Or is it the fact that I'm not clearly communicating? There comes a
Yeah.
point where you're not, there has been no bridge of getting to know how he hears me,
Right.
what's going, it goes deeper than that.
Right.
So communication covers that, is what I'm really saying. It's under that umbrella of communicate. Communication is just not verbal. It's just not talking. And actually,
Very true.
I'm really strong in writing. And so writing it out, explaining it, putting it in letters, I will do that first. And then I want to have the conversation.
Now that was, I think for me, a huge turning point was, we had to learn each other's communication style.
Right. How I'm receiving it, that comes to building relationship and taking time.
How you receive it.
And getting to know the person, because that really, and I go back to trust. I'm going to put all of these as, when we think communication, we think calm, right?
Uh-huh.
We're expressing, but it's all of it. It's trust.
Right.
Body
language.
It's body language. It's emotional. It really puts a lot where you have to invest in your partner.
Right.
You have to make that investment, that
good.
time, and give
That's
that a bridge of grace that you come to learn and understand that it starts to flow. And that is not overnight. That is a lot of time in that. And people change, people grow. So our wisdom kicked in, right? Our patience, what popped us off then doesn't pop us off now. But so it is work. Oh, it's not over that. Like after a while, we didn't even realize we were somewhat abusive toward each other. We were abusive in our approach, but that came out of other baggage that we brought in that hadn't been unpacked.
That's another.
And then that's a part of your communication. The fact that you bring the baggage in and you think it's okay to pop off on somebody. Like Terrence wasn't, well, I was popping off, right? He was patient. I was the one popping off. But that comes to my family always also on my dad's side has a really high temper, right? Temper match. So with that, or bad relationships, if you don't know that you're doing that, you want to blame the other person. We all have these areas, but we deflect and say, you're not comprehending me. You're not taking accountability for the fact that you're not communicating. Communicate.
But I am.
And it's ego too. You know, can I say this? It's ego because you want to say they are not comprehending me. And so that's an insult. It becomes where it's a territory of insult. You're in that insult territory. Like you just don't understand me. They're not understanding what I'm saying. Why are you not communicating and learning them? When we take those responsibility in my corner, his corner, then we can come out with grace. Otherwise, it's going to be like, you're not hearing me. You're not listening to me. You're just not getting it. Okay.
See, even like that part. So when I started figuring out that what I was saying to her, she wasn't getting it.
You see that? I wasn't getting it.
She wasn't getting it.
Mm-hmm. See how that comes off, though?
Because I'm high level, So,
ego.
So after a while, I realized that how I was communicating to her was not how she was receiving it was not the way I intended it. And as you know, with communication your communication is only as good as the person receiving it. So once I figured that out, in my mind, I am inquiring of her, being an understanding husband. I was trying to say, baby, what did you understand with what I said?
Let me tell you how.
What I said was...
Let me tell you what the nigga said. The nigga said, where did you get that? How did you get there? You see how that popped me up? What do you...
To me, it's a straightforward question.
I'm not going to say a bad word.
You basically...
Outside, my mama be watching these things. You...
How'd you get there?
You see how... Okay. Nancy, you still listen? Yo, do y'all hear that? How did you get there?
I'm thinking I'm being nice and being understanding.
You nasty. You're rude.
And I was saying this for years.
You a beast.
I was saying this for years, calling myself being understanding.
And then I just shut down. Then that irritates. See, because one thing we do first, when we in relationships, first thing we gonna do is figure out what your hot button is.
Oh my god!
Terrence's
oh my god!
Is when I stop talking.
Because I'm a community. I like talking. I like talking.
Everybody know you like talking.
I like talking things out. Man.
So what I'm saying is,
okay, but let me finish this part. So
you see how rude that is? How'd you get there? How was that? So when
she finally tells me, I don't like the way you said that. Like, what the hell you mean? I don't like. You don't mean? How do you? You don't like the way I say what? How did you get there? Make me sound like I'm a child or something.
Like something wrong with me.
Like what's wrong with me?
Good morning.
You don't know how to talk. I'm like, what are you? I'm asking.
Right. So
we had to hold on. Let me finish this part. So I had to go. Okay, what I wanted to pop off at this. I'm like, I've been asking this question for years. I'm trying to be a better communicator after I
Yeah,
realized.
but you
and this
asking
is part
how
of
I
the
got
therapy.
there.
Yeah, because I'm like, how did you get from I'm talking at A, you done went to Z squared. I'm like, how the heck the hell do you get all the way through the alphabet 2-3 times exponentially and a total different result, a different planet, different universe, different galaxy, the whole different reality. She done shifted dimension and everything. And I'm trying to figure out, huh? So I say, all right, so
No, your
being
partner.
that this is my partner, she's words. Words are important to her.
Yes.
So, and then
Extremely.
how the words come out and how it's received. So I asked, I clarified what my intention and rationale and the reasoning for the question. Because I'm trying to, and I said, hey, I'm trying to understand with what I said, you received it very differently than the way I intended. So how did you receive? No, I didn't say how did you receive. Yeah, I did. I said how did you receive that? Then she told me.
No.
She gave me the
let's
long
back
list,
up. You
and
said
then I
first-
said,
No, Terrence, back
"What?
up.
What?
He added fuel to the fire by saying, "Now tell me what you heard.
Yeah,
What did you get out of that?"
right.
But look at my temperament of the fact that I said,
Yeah, she was already hot.
"Don't
so-
talk to me like I'm a child." So that's my framework, right? That's my mindset.
Uh-huh.
But now you're putting the responsibility like I'm in school, you're the teacher, you're the
Because I'm
like,
trying
there's
to
no
understand how to
Mind
reach
you,
you.
we're
how
not
to reach
saying
you.
we're there now. We're just going over. There's a difference when you're talking about comprehension, these elements. So I just stopped talking to irritate you, so you can come up. The balloon.
Petty. I thought I was.
I actually did it so the
No,
balloon,
yeah, that's just
so the balloon could pop
being
in
the
his head.
woman in her.
So the balloon could pop. But I just want to say that part.
Okay, so after all of that, right? I'm having to reframe my question
Yes.
several times.
Yes.
Until I finally go, what is the best way for me to ask you this so that excuse me, so that you receive it in the purest intention that what I
Such
meant.
a beautiful question.
And she told me in where that it's a non-offensive. She heard me. She understood what my intentions were. She wasn't trying to hear what my intentions were at the time. She was in her feelings. She was in her womanhood. She was in her wifery. She was in all of that. And don't talk to me like a child. All of that was going on. Finally, and this is like that. It was just that one conversation that we just had that broke down. And after she said, "This is," I would receive it better if you said it this way. And it wasn't watered down, and it wasn't childlike, and it wasn't none of that. It was, I'm respecting the way she receives my communication at certain, especially in a very, very sensitive time and very sensitive subject or very sensitive situations. Now, I don't have to do that in all situations, but I recognize when it comes to this, in that type of question, this is the way she prefers to have the inquiry received. Once we got past that, it became like a faucet.
Right.
So the communication became so clear and then when I noticed that there's a miscommunication, I would still ask the same question, but it also sparked a very better understanding on her end that, okay, I recognize what Terrence was saying, but where I was at the time, emotionally, psychologically,
Yeah.
I wasn't even ready to have the conversation.
Yeah.
But he didn't know that.
Right.
But I took it out on him
Right.
because he didn't know that.
Right.
And I know we're going to have to
Yeah.
wrap this up shortly, but
Yeah, we do. We have to wrap it up, but yeah, Nancy did it. She opened that gate. She opened that faucet. But I think we went to the fact that there are sub factors, variables of communication
Yeah.
in partnerships, relationships, that we then use that to deter, deflect what it is, and the accountability of articulating how we feel and not waiting for a well-seasoned season to address something that should have
Right.
been addressed because the timing just wasn't there. So it became a pileup again
Right.
over the years.
100 car pile
I mean,
minimum.
minimum, uncalculated of, in 20 something years, I'm bringing up something that happened on our honeymoon, right? That I was mad in the donut shop, but it wasn't the situation.
And it took me a while just to remember that.
Right. I jarred your memory until it got there.
Well, she made sure she jarred my memory.
But it wasn't the situation as much as it was the behavior, and it was still the communication.
Right.
It was still, I felt conquered. I felt like my voice was being conquered. And because I felt like Terrence was controlling. I felt a lot of things. And I can be controlling too. So you got two controlling people who I can be controlling in my areas of expertise. Okay. All right. In my areas of expertise. But in that, whenever you come into any partnership, I think the biggest lesson is you're bringing everything with you.
Yes,
you're bringing
everything.
And two individuals,
known and unknown.
Two individuals coming together for a soul journey is a lot of situations that just show up. And whether or not each individual commits to the commitment of doing the soul work, of doing that, is another area.
And that is not overnight just to get to.
It's not. And I know people say that all the time, but I think it takes more people longer, not because it's because of what we're dealing with right now.
Right.
I believe that if more people would stop shining out when they know there's still blemishes, like stop shining when you know you got stuff. Like, us coming out here more consistently and sticking to a schedule, again, it's something we're working through. Consistency in this Mondays with the Moors. Life happens. It should shorten the time. Our life and our journey should be a testimony, but we also had to get past what we thought was the inevitable platform for pastors, for professionals, for people, that this is Terrence. At the end of the day, This is Terrence and Cheryl. This is our journey, our story. So no one gets to own that. Our titles, our positions, our work, who we are out in public, do not own who we are, public or private. We own that. And because of that elongates the time for other people, because what we conquered should be a huge stepping stone for others coming. It should be. So we learn to do that with our sons. Like, hey, we look very transparent before them. This is how you deal with relationships. They've gotten it because we realize we don't want you to go through this if we can shorten that time for you.
You're going to go through dumb stuff on your own.
You're going to do it on your own, but the common stuff, like, just know this is what happens, and
you don't get there overnight.
And you work through it, and that's the beauty of why we're doing Monday with the Moors, and that is the beauty of the lessons that we've learned over the years. That when people say communication and people give advice and keep God at the center of your marriage, they are saying these things, but nobody is telling you what that means, so you still bump your head. Nobody is getting in the trenches with you to share their treasures, to say, this is how you avoid that. This is what happened to us. So now you have one way, you can have others. If more people came forward with that transparent journey instead of a performative stage, I believe that we would have more healed relationships. Not so much divorces, not only in marriages, but divorces in partnerships and in friendships and in family. And that is what we feel our next ministry is. This is what we feel is the evolution of who we are for that in terms of family and relationships.
But one of the major things in a relationship is that we talked about in transition. And Cheryl, you transition into a whole different area of life, into opening
next episode.
your next because you have something that's coming out.
Yeah, I do.
Before we have our next episode.
Right. Before we have our next episode, I did, and that was a part of. Let me say this, gratefully blessed. I have the right. I knew. Sometimes he questioned, did I marry God? Is who I was supposed to marry? or Terrence would tick me off, right? But let me tell
It's a
you,
gift.
I don't know what you all see. People say Terrence talk a lot. Yes, and I love him. But let me tell you, this warrior, I call him my strong man, carried me in these months of transition from a career. My journey was I'm coming out with it on a path of a college presidency within the next year and a half now. And how that rug got pulled, I was actually interviewing and tapped for a couple of colleges looking until my position then, because the college was going through so much, was eliminated. And because a college president has such a high platform, you don't want somebody who, like, they're coming from an institution in trouble to then lead the helm of another one. So that kind of knocked me out of the race. And in essence, that scalpel came and cut me out of that path. And that was very difficult, very hard, very, very, very in-depth gut punch. And in that, because I said I wasn't going to take a pay cut, because I said I wasn't going to do this, not knowing how that was going to end up with a complete different transitional path,
Right.
into what my soul calling is. It is, I've always mentored women, now from a vocational lens. And so I started that initiative. I went back to writing my blog. I'm about to launch my first ebook. It is a series of The Writer Wants Room. Look for it near you, on a platform near you, coming soon. This month, actually.
This month.
Actually, this month, by the end of this month. It is a very short read. It's Short Reads by Cheryl series. And it's all about embracing the gift after a war within, and warring with my identity as a writer. This gift came out in my writing to bring me healing and deliverance. Like, that wasn't who you were. That was for then. This is who God is forming you into someone else now. And how I've just released things and allowed people to pull from me, use me, these things. I allowed it, and putting a stop to it. Like, this is my journey. These are things, these are jewels and treasures. So taking those, whether they're going back to school, on a educational pathway, mentoring by modeling, because I've done it, and I'm going through and mentoring those that are signing up for the initiative. In that, I do a marathon at the last endings of each month. I started the next one will be April 28th. Shameless plug if you want to sign up. In that, and my ebooks. And today I'm starting a big initiative, working on a grant-funded project with the higher education institution. And
that's cool.
That's cool, but it's always, now here I align on higher ed in a very different way off of that path, and how this entrepreneur and this writer and this mentor is showing up. That's a transition that our family had to go through, our marriage went through, but this man carried me in my tears, my depression, the days of golfing in a 30+ year presidential path, and to have that, God is like, listen, that was sharp, that was cutting, that was a scalpel cut. It was precise, and it impacted us in a very beautiful way, because through this communication, through that work, here I see not just a king, just a priest, but this compassionate human being who understood my tears, was there for me emotionally, with a lot of power. All I can say is, so our 32 years means so much in just how we just journeyed that together. Because people see one side, but I experienced, like, I've never been physically abused, never said a cuss word or call me out my name. And just to see the ambiance of power and grace and empathy and drying my tears, the days I didn't want to eat, cleaning and cooking and buying the groceries at my lowest point. I can't tell you what it means that wherever you are in your marriage or your relationship, when you allow that to happen and come through, you will see a different point. I've always seen it. He brings me coffee every morning for years and always calls me queen. But and shining and always supporting, but it's nothing like, there's no loss. You will know when someone sees you at their lowest and they love you as though you are at your highest. Man, that is amazing. So that's our 32. Y'all, I cry a lot. I love you too.
Good.
All right. We bless your day. We bless every partnership, business partnership, and marriage on this day. That the treasure of vulnerability and the honor of whoever you are as an individual starts with you and extends outward to project purpose and not pain. That we call people into healing. We call you into divine alignment with not only your purpose, but your soul journey, the work and the calling and the anointing upon every person's life. That there would just not be healing, but we extend hope. Amen.
Amen. The next time we'll be here, April 28th, 7:30 Central Standard Time. And by that time, we would have had the launch of the ebook.
Yes.
So I can't wait to deliver that wonderful report. So be on the lookout. Check out her her social media pages on Facebook, LinkedIn. Yep. The link. She'll probably and probably when she shares it, she'll probably put all that information.
Right. And mine is actually Pay What You Can initiative.
Oh, yeah.
I have a strategy session too for people who are doing business ideation and other things. But Pay What You Can is the key to get people started, to be comfortable, to begin, just get started in that. For that. But my book is not just for women, it's for men too. Mm-hmm. And at the price of $5.99, don't say anything about it because that's what it's going to be, because it's an ebook. So I love you all. We love you all. Love you.
Love you too, Dane.
Yes. Team Patterson.
All right. Y'all take care. Be blessed. We love you. We out.